friends. Welcome from wherever you are joining us. If you don't know what you've made it to, this is the Scholé Academy Open House, and we are delighted to welcome you this evening. I'm Joylyn Blake. I'm the director of Scholé Academy, and I'm joined by many friends who you will get to meet along the way, along our journey. But before we go any further this evening, I wanted to open us or invite my friend Father Nathan Dickinson to open us in a word of prayer. At Scholé Academy, we are a praying community and we do offer weekly house prayer. And I would like Father Nate, if you would, Father Nate, the chair of our Canterbury House of Studies, to open us in prayer.
I would love to. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we confess that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Thank you for this faculty of friends who is pursuing wisdom. Thank you that we can do it together. Help us in these moments to speak well, to highlight the true, the good, and the beautiful, to highlight what you're doing at Scholé Academy. Thank you for what you have done, for what you are doing, and for what you will do. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Father Nate. Well, before we go much further, what I'd like to do is just tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm going to stop the screen share so you can get an eye on who you're with this evening. And like I said, you'll get to meet some of these fine folks as we go through the evening. But I'm Joylyn Blake, and I'm not only the director of Scholé Academy, but I'm a homeschooling mom. I'm a mom of four, and we've had quite an adventurous little life as we have kind of dotted the countryside in various countries. Our family spent and lived for 8 years in China, and I raised and homeschooled four kiddos in a little 750 square foot apartment, cooking on a single little hot burner. And so wherever you may be in your homeschooling journey and whatever you're encountering, whether lots of space and room or whether limited, whether, climate challenged as we were there, or just in free and open countryside. We even have families who RV around the world with us. You are among fellow friends here. And I hope that as you experience us this evening, you get to know not only the courses and the richness of the subjects that are available to you, but the warm community that you come to be a part of as you join Scholé Academy. So I'll get us started with a little bit more acquaintance with who you might experience and encounter along the way with Scholé Academy. And that includes getting to know some of the families, not getting to know them personally this evening, but kind of the environment and the representation from all over the place. So first of all, you can know that we serve over 2,000 students from at least 15 or more countries. And that translates to us offering courses that are more than 400 sections of things. That's not 400 distinct courses, but that's multiple sections of many, many things. So some courses, maybe there's only a single section of that thing, and others there's 7 and 8 sections because of its popularity. We also have over 100 instructors joining us from all parts of the globe. And if you want to know kind of what our brand is like or what you'll experience, I invite you on our website, scholeacademy.com, to toggle and visit our About Us page. This kind of in summary statement, you'll hear this a lot, that we're classical, we're restful, we're engaging, and we're personal. And those are the hallmarks of our courses. Now, here's an opportunity to hear not from us, from a fellow parent and parents.
I am a mom of 5 kids, a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old on top of my 11-year-old.
I don't have the time necessarily or the knowledge to teach everything that I want to teach, especially when I'm teaching multiple children.
These Schole instructors are really here to support your goals as the parent, and they have done a beautiful job of meeting my kids where they are.
This is deeper, slower, richer learning, which is what I've wanted for my children.
So it was helpful for me to have Scholé, kind of a tutor in the home, a Christian teacher that can help with my student.
It has been one of the greatest blessings of my life as a parent to see my children grow in wisdom and in knowledge. But not just that, the level of humility that I see in my children as they learn is beautiful.
Schooling at home doesn't mean you have to do everything solo. Scholé Academy classes are classical, live, online, personal, and engaging. And you can enroll your child in one course or a slew of them, depending on what meets your needs. All our new courses go live on the website January 29th, and you can enroll in February. Plan for a school year your family will love.
If you've never been a part of Scholé Academy courses, this is what one of them looks like. To join our classes, our cameras are on, students are doing real work and showing real work to their instructors. And this is just one among many, and there's no way we could speak to everything that is offered, but I want to orient you again. If you go to the website, and this is for you who aren't new to Scholé Academy, you're just joining us tonight because you know we're great to hang out with, and you want to know what else is new. So let me tell you, my friends, on the website, on the All Courses page, you see up there in that upper left-hand corner, new courses, there's a way that you can toggle that little button on and it will isolate your search and just bring up what is distinctly new in the coming year. So I invite you to do that right now. If you want to go to the Scholé Academy website, All Courses page, and toggle that on, I invite you to do that. We're going to have a Q&A at the end of our time together, and you're welcome to start, kind of loading up and getting the questions that you may have ready to go, because we would love to know what you're interested in, what you're curious about, and what you want to know more about. Another thing I want to point out is you can filter your searches as this, bar illustrates. So depending on what you're interested in, the grade level or the subject. But that is not the only way that you can filter what you are looking for. And for that purpose, I am going to move on to my dear friend and colleague, Presbytera Maria Koulianos, who is the principal of our Orthodox House of Study, St. Raphael School, and she's the manager of our tutoring center. So she's going to tell you a little bit more about our setup and kind of what's available to you in the scope of Scholé Academy offerings. So Presbytera Maria, it is all yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Blake, our fearless leader. And I'm joined with, of course, as Father Nate said, the faculty of friends. And we are really happy that you have joined us here tonight. And one of the distinct things that we have here in Scholé Academy is what we call our houses of study. And as you can see here from our map, we have the main area that you enter in, which is the Great Hall. And then in this Great Hall, we find commonalities of us rallying around the Christian Nicene Creed, and we take courses together around the commonality of the Nicene Creed, Protestants, Catholics, and Orthodox Christians alike. But then when we want to dig a little deeper, when we want to deep dive into certain specific traditions, we have the houses of studies. And so we have the houses of studies, as you can see here from the diagram. We have Canterbury House of Studies, which is our Anglican House of Studies. We have Aquinas House of Studies, which is our Catholic House of Studies. And we also have St. Raphael School, which is the largest house of studies, a school within a school, which is our Orthodox Christian House of Studies. And in these areas, families can actually go in, as of course C.S. Lewis mentions, and it is in the rooms, not in the hall, that there are fires and chairs and meals, and you stick around a little longer and you dig deeply and dive deeply into the various traditions and have conversations to that specific traditions and those specific studies, in catechism, liberal arts, liturgical arts, languages, and so much more. So this is something very special that happens within Scholé Academy that we are very proud of. And for those of you that haven't seen it yet, Monica Meinhardt, who is the house chair of Aquinas House, Father Nathan, who is the house chair of Canterbury House, and myself just finished a Classical U podcast, and Miss Allison Haley, who is our operations coordinator, will be putting that in the chat for you. And we discuss education as soul craft. And it was a very wonderful discussion between the three of us, joined by Dr. Joylyn Blake as well, and us discussing how all three traditions focus on this deep dive within each tradition and bringing our students through our courses coming closer to Christ. So that is something that is really important here at Scholé Academy. Now, arranging personalized services. Our tutoring center and Center for Students with Learning Differences is another area in which we help customize and differentiate instruction for our families and our students. So if you're unable, for example, to meet a time of a course, you can come to us. If you have a student, even in a brick and mortar, that needs attention or an extra helping hand in doing assignments, you can come to us in supplemental tutoring. If you have a small co-op, if you have a small classical school that doesn't have a Latin teacher, a science teacher, a Greek teacher, you name it, you can come to us and we can supply that virtually for you. And all of those things are customizable and per request, and we can set you up with a free consultation with an instructor that can fit your needs, and we can help you set the goals for your educational plan, whether it's an individual student, 2 to 3 students, a group of students, or even a school. Our Center for Students with Learning Differences, we also offer, we have special needs instructors that focus on dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, many other learning differences, executive functioning, that we can also help your students thrive in a classical education. We believe that all our students have classical education available to them. Everyone can thrive through a classical education focused on what's true, good, and beautiful, and we are here to help.
Thank you so much, Presbytera. And Presbytera is now going to be joined in her celebration of all that Scholé Academy has to offer by some of our other leaders and educators at Scholé Academy. And you may have recognized these faces if you snoop around on our instructors page or our admin page. Each of these individuals works with and for Scholé Academy, but I've asked them to speak to you tonight, not only as in their role or function at Scholé Academy, which they will introduce to you, but also and more specifically as a mom and as a homeschooling mom and what they've chosen. So we'll hear from Danielle Bartko first, then Allison Haley, then Monica Meinhardt, then Nancy Parcells. So I'm going to stop the screen share here, ladies, so that we can get a good look at you. Okay, Danielle, it's all yours.
Alrighty. Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Bartko. I've been an instructor for 4 years now, but I've been a Scholé mom for 8 years. This is our 8th year. I have two daughters who have been students with St. Raphael's School and Scholé Academy, one since third grade and the other one since the very beginning, and they have really loved their classes. And something I've really found over the years, and I've taken for granted until I've looked elsewhere, to be quite honest, is Scholé really offers a very restful and very rigorous curriculum. I've been amazed sometimes looking at the things that my daughter, who has been in these classes and gone through programs like writing and rhetoric and such for years and years, like how much has really developed her skills. And sometimes it takes somebody outside of the Scholé bubble to look at her and tell me what they think about her writing, about her intelligence, and think, wow, she's really picked up a lot from this school. One of the things I really like the most about it, both of my daughters are August babies, so they're those kind of cut-off babies where when you try to send them to kindergarten, they try to tell you to hold the kid back a year. And you can't tell from this, but I'm tall. My kids are very tall. I did not want to hold them back a year, so I let them start kindergarten. Academically, they were very ready for it. But maturity-wise, perhaps might not have done so well in a brick and mortar program. So one of the really nice things about putting them in St. Raphael and Scholé Academy classes was they were able to still have their maturity level, but yet still step up with teachers that would raise the bar on things academic. So it really was fantastic for them. And then another thing too, I'm sure a lot of parents have felt this. I know I felt this in the beginning. When you look at all of the courses that we offer, it is overwhelming. It is such an entirely huge smorgasbord. It's like going to a gigantic buffet and you don't quite know where to start. That's something we could certainly help you with. I'd love to give anybody advice on like where to start your children. I could tell you about what my own kids did. But something that I found was that I was able to give my kids like very leveled classes, like exactly what they needed. I wasn't putting them in like, let's say, a general seventh grade math class where some kids are here, some kids are there, and where's my kid in the middle of that? Over the years, my kids have been in classes where all of the kids in the class were right there with them. Socratic discussions have always been fantastic just because the kids are able to, I don't want to say compete with each other, but yeah, if you were to put them head to head, they could compete with each other academically. So I've really enjoyed that. Um, Placement tests have been an absolute godsend. They could be difficult to do in the summertime, but when you put your kid through that and then us teachers can figure out exactly where your kid belongs and they are put into a math class, a language class, exactly where they should be. So that's been wonderful. And another thing that I've liked as a homeschool parent, you're in charge of your kids' education. You get to pick and choose which classes you like for your children. You know your children best. We'll get to know your kids really well too, but you know your children best, and you can make these decisions as to where your kids belong, what they need, what fulfills the homeschool requirements in your particular state. So that's always been wonderful too. I've loved having that kind of control over my kids' education. Like I've really been able to build this very individual, beautiful thing for both of my children. And then I could say also, and this is coming from me as both a teacher and a parent, sometimes things are taught better in an online setting than an in-person setting. These Scholé Academy teachers, we know how to handle Zoom. We know how to handle the online resources where your child will be kept, I don't want to say entertained, but like they're going to be kept engaged. They're going to be given work that's going to give feedback really quickly. And I notice that happens better than I've seen in some of the in-person classes, like even in my own experience as a teacher. So I've really loved that about the Scholé Academy. So anybody that says online education is no, it's fantastic here. It's really done well here. So I could absolutely say that. And then the last thing I'd love to add as a parent is my kids are busy. One of my kids in particular, she's in regional choirs, she sang in the opera. I live in my car sometimes, taking her to all the rehearsals and such. Having my kids in Scholé Academy has made it so much easier. I save a lot of gas money and a lot of like fuss in my life. So it's made school quite a bit easier. So we're sticking with Scholé Academy until my kids are off to college.
And you see, Danielle Bartko is a fabulous mom, and you can take her as an instructor. So check out the science courses and the math that Ms. Bartko teaches. Next, the illustrious Allison Haley.
All right, good evening, everyone. I can absolutely agree that Mrs. Bartko's science classes are amazing. My own kids have been in her class, and so she's been a real blessing to us. And so My role here is operations coordinator, but I actually started with Scholé Academy as a math instructor. So I started kind of just edging in and getting to know this faculty of friends that you've heard us talk about and started to see things kind of from the inside out. And I realized this was a place that my kids needed to be too. So I have 4 children. We've homeschooled all along. 2 of my kids now are grown, but they started middle school and high school courses with Scholé Academy way back when we were first getting to know the community. We are part of a local co-op, so we have that face-to-face interaction. We have really grounded, solid friends that we love, that we do life with. And so Scholé Academy was a different piece of the puzzle for us. They were an answer to the need to go richer and deeper for all of my children. We live in a very rural setting, and so there have been years where there were a lot of kids in their class, and there have been years where there were not very many kids in their local co-op class. And so we needed that kind of like steady baseline that I could, as I'm doing my planning each year, usually in the summer or springtime, I'm thinking about each of my children and I'm praying over them and praying about where they are in their growth spiritually and academically and all those things. And I'm thinking, like, what skills do they really need? And so I back that up then and I look at the courses that are going to help balance that out. And so Scholé Academy for us has been that baseline that even though we're in a rural setting and there may be ebbs and flows and in other dynamics in our life, it's been a steady. There are amazing, amazing instructors that have become just real family friends to us. They've been a guest in our home, we like to say, multiple times a week as my kids have had classes. And so we've just really enjoyed and benefited from the knowledge and the expertise and really the passion that they have brought to our homeschool world. So even though we live in a rural setting, it has given us access to some top-notch instructors that we wouldn't have had access to. But I think even more than that, it's given us access to like-minded friends, like-minded colleagues, like-minded other parents that can be an encouragement along the way. And so it's really just enriched our whole family by giving us this steady sphere, this steady, I don't know, body of like-minded folks that can be on the journey with us. And so as a mom, as a homeschool parent, as an instructor, as a part of the admin team now, it's just been a really delightful journey on all the different levels that we've seen. And my kids have benefited from it. It's certainly changed their trajectory. I'm looking at the screen here of the other panelists, and my own kids have had pretty much everybody here. And I am just very grateful for the seeds that you have all sown and the way that that has equipped them for the things that God is calling them into as they grow into adulthood. And we are in that season of launching them into those things, and they're flourishing. So it's been really a great part of our whole picture of our homeschool at home.
Thank you so much, Allison. Amen, amen. Next, we're going to hear from Monica Meinhardt. So talk about the steadiness that Scholé Academy has provided. Monica is the chair of our Aquinas House of Studies. You can listen to that podcast Presbyterian mentioned, and Monica will tell a little bit from a mom's perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's funny, I have the exact same numbers as Danielle, kind of. I have 4 years as an instructor and 8 years technically as a Scholé parent. We started with the summer classes. My son was in Presbyteria's summer class, a Green Ember class, no less, one of our favorites here at Scholé. And now my third child is reading through that series, by the way, and she just loves it. So great books that we've experienced from Scholé that we might not have learned about otherwise. Anyhow, we're a military family too. And so we move around as a pretty good standard every 3 years. And my kids, we have homeschooled, and then they were in public school, and then they were in private school, and then they were in a charter school. And then we finally decided, oh, why we understand why lots of other military families homeschool because of the continuity of not having to change textbooks as frequently and that kind of thing. But with Scholé, we have not had to even get rid of teachers and friends. They have so many overlapping classmates, even between each other. So not just the teachers that they've shared, each have had the same type of instruction and same teachers, but classmates that they've gotten to know, just being familiar with names. And that's something that we just simply can't have because we move around so frequently. Usually takes us, I've noticed with our military moves, about 2 years. By about the middle of the second year, we'll kind of feel like we're getting our footing, making friends, which we thankfully always have been able to find a good church community and co-ops as well, like Allison mentioned. But we don't have to have that big break in between at all. And so if we're moving or even if we're on vacation, and we've had all sorts of things happen where we, go visit family for an extended period of time over the summer, and my kids can still do their summer classes. And to have that continuity where I know now, just like Danielle said, I know that I finally decided, we are in it for homeschool until the end. And I know now that we're going to be with Scholé until the end. And it's just such a, relaxing thing for me. And what's nice about that too is it doesn't mean that every single year my kids are going to be taking the exact same classes every single year. So I kind of like to do this alternating approach where maybe one year I really want someone else to teach them science or a language. And then the next year I'm like, no, I want to go, like next year I'm already planning, I want them to go more into literature classes with Scholé. And then the following year we'll probably switch it up again because I just love teaching. And so I love having an opportunity to teach them each of those subjects. But I have 5 kids, one who is just 1 years old, and so getting into all sorts of trouble. And and one, my oldest is in high school, and so there's just this big range here. And so for them to have that again, that continuity with peers, with people their age, things that I can't do it all. As moms, I think we definitely try to do it all, but we cannot. And so yeah, it's just so comforting to me to not have to leave. I know that we will move again, and I'm just not worried like I have been in the past of like, oh, okay, we have to start all over again, and get to know everyone all over again. And we don't have to do that with our school, so it's a big piece of all of our lives. I know school and how we're going to do it, and so yeah, it's just been a huge blessing to us, and we're so grateful to have familiar faces, even especially for me as a mother too.
Thank you so much, Monica. Now, our last mom speaker, listen, I'm going to tell you all in advance. If you have sent a message to our support inbox, if you have called our support line, chances are high that you have talked to and been adequately and above adequately supported by this woman. So she will not be able to share with you this evening all the goodness and richness that there is in the wealth of the Parcells mind. But there will be a registrar drop-in where you can visit more with her. I believe it's tomorrow. So Nancy Parcells, who is our customer service and registrar, will tell you a little bit about why she loves Scholé as a mom, and then you can meet with her tomorrow if you want to know more.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, Scholé is a huge part of our life, not with just me, being on the admin, but also as being a homeschooling mom. I have 2 boys with an 8.5 year age gap. And having boys with this 8.5 year age gap can feel challenging. Um, but with our online learning that we've been doing through Scholé, it actually has turned that gap into a strength for us. With Scholé, each of my boys can learn at their own pace, and instead of kind of being forced into the same schedule throughout the day, um, while my older son is, attending a class or working on his work, I can then work with my younger son and do more age appropriate learning for him, or, he's taking a Scholé Academy class, and so I attend with him. The flexibility has greatly reduced my stress. It has caused a calmer learning environment at home. It has also encouraged independence in my older son, and it's helped him learn time management and responsibility. And my younger son is picking up on these skills. And so it's great that he can watch and listen and kind of see it in a more natural setting instead of it kind of being forced upon him. Um, Most importantly, Scholé has allowed me to support both of my children without constantly feeling like I'm choosing one over the other. It's that age gap is actually turned from a limitation on to more of an advantage to help support each of their learning and their growth and kind of just our balance for our whole family. And so it has just been a blessing to kind of see them both flourishing in their own age appropriate ways and them kind of learning from each other at the same time. And it's just been a beautiful thing to see, even though they have this big age group and we can't exactly have like our the same kind of morning basket or morning time that some families have because of the age gap. It is nice though that they can still learn from each other. And sometimes I'll even have my older one be like, "Hey, help your brother do this while I go make lunch or while I get an hour of work done." So it's nice that they can kind of work with each other and they both have this experience at their own levels and at their own time. So it's been a huge blessing.
I love it. Scholé Academy serves families with real lives. And thank you so much, Nancy. And again, Nancy will probably be able to put in the chat if you want to visit with her more. There's a little drop in with the registrar where you can ask some more questions tomorrow at 10 a.m., I believe. Now, the next person we're going to hear from is not a mom. In fact, she went and got herself married while she was working for Scholé Academy. But she is a long-standing, been here longer than I have, has been held a host of roles, largely as a Latin instructor. Now she also serves as the dean of our lower school. And so she knows and she's seen and heard a lot. And one of those things is kind of the hesitancy or the objection about like, ugh, but can online really be personal? And Danielle already sort of spoke to this a little bit, but I'm going to ask the incomparable Amanda Reeves to speak to, well, Amanda, can it be personal? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, you bet it can. Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here with you all. So, when I first came to Scholé Academy, I came because it was online and I needed that sort of flexibility for myself. I was in kind of a fun season of my life where I was moving every 3 months between Rome, Italy, Recife, Brazil, and Bozeman, Montana, of all places. So, I needed to be able to pick up my work and take it with me. But I've realized that what has kept me here at Scholé are the rich relationships that I've gotten to develop with my students, with their families, and just the community that we have forged here at Scholé Academy. It's been such a joy over the years to, in my own travels, to get to connect with students kind of all over the world. I've taken students, met up with them at my favorite childhood ice cream shop. I got to give some of my students a tour in Rome one year, which was a huge highlight. I have plans to introduce another family to New Haven style pizza when they pass through the town where I am now here in a little bit. And it's always such a joy to realize how much each of those meetups feels like a reunion of old friends. Even when the parents are people that I primarily correspond with over email, maybe a phone call here and there, when we get to give each other a big old hug, it feels like I've known them for forever. And getting to finally see the students in person, I always joke around with them. I have no clue how tall they all are because I just see them on Zoom. So it is always an adventure to see, the students that I think are really tall are very short, and vice versa. But I think initially I was surprised at how rich the relationships are that we get to form with our students inside of the classroom until I realized that it actually makes total sense. Because just as I was carrying all of those students with me around the world, they were carrying me around their worlds. Whether they were going to class from grandma's house, I was there at grandma's house with them. If we were in the backyard because it was a particularly beautiful sunny day, I was there. If it was the dining room table with little siblings crowding around and cats crawling into the screen, hey, that's part of the Scholé Academy fun. And all of those things at Scholé Academy are not a distraction. so much as they're an enrichment, right? If we have somebody's pet who's acting up in class and the dog just will not sit still, well, you better bet that all the sentences we're going to be diagramming are going to be featuring, said dog, whoever it may be. Or if we are talking about our favorite verbs, hey, we're talking about the fun things we got to do over the weekend. And as a result, we're really getting to know each other well. And there's this friendship that's forming across geographic lines that you would never expect to be happening. But it really is one of the most beautiful things that we have going here at Scholé Academy. And it certainly has been a highlight of my time here as an instructor.
She is telling the truth, and I'm going to prove it because Amanda Reeves has, in fact, met people all over the world. As said photo illustrates, there they are in Rome, friends. And no, Scholé Academy does not host this meetup, but it is amazing that families, friends, etc., can find a way to, even if they never are able to meet in person, to really connect personally. So thank you so much, Amanda, for that. And the next folks that we're going to hear from are individuals who also have their own homeschooling lives, their own lives and histories with Scholé Academy. But I've asked some of our department leaders to speak to some of the subject matters that families are particularly interested in. We're reading, writing, arithmetic, and plenty beyond that. So Classical Academic Press, which is our parent company, has produced famous curricular lines. People have become like really ravenous advocates for some of these studies, Latin being one of them, our writing and rhetoric program, our logic program, and our whole Navarre science lines. So for these reasons, I want to say that whatever you're doing, you can take our courses a la carte, just like has been said. And there's all kinds of new little electives dropping in every new academic year. But then we also have these rich, lasting programs that your child can progress through year after year and steadily build their skills. You can really plan for the distance. And so I'm going to ask Eddie Katinsky, who is the chair of our languages department. He's going to speak to you a little bit about that. Amy Morgan will speak to you as the chair of our writing and rhetoric department, and she also serves as our well-ordered language, so she can also kind of address that slightly. And then Ash White will speak about studying logic with us, and then we will wrap it up with Chris Hall speaking about science for these kind of long-standing programs. And then we'll take a little break before we hear from a couple of others. So let me stop my share here so that we can see your lovely faces again. And I will hand it to Mr. Katinsky.
Hi, yeah, so I'm Eddie Katinsky. I've been here at Scholé Academy for 8 years teaching Latin and Greek, and um, been teaching a lot longer than that, but really enjoyed landing here. We're going to really just talk about the fact that we have a progression in our language program, but also sort of gentle beginning, and also kind of end with talking about what we call the far-reaching applications of the language department. So, as someone who grew up overseas, I value second language, and I think it's just so important for us to know more about other cultures through language, know more about history and all that. But some of you might be asking the question of like, what does that look like? We have I'm going to start with our Latin, but need to have a shout out for all our other languages as well, because, and I'm really sorry if I miss any, but we have Latin, we have ancient Greek, Spanish, French, ASL, that's American Sign Language, we have Korean, and then in St. Raphael's we have Arabic, Russian, Greek, and I might have missed some because I don't know if we've got more. So it's great. We have a great department, but just to use Latin as our example, we have Latin for Children series, Latin A. Did I miss German? I'm so sorry. German. Yes. Latin for Children A, B, and C, which is just a really nice, gentle elementary age start to our Latin. program. And Amanda does a lot of that, but we have other teachers as well in that, and really just gives our kids an exciting, um, sort of engaging, steady approach to the introduction to the Latin language, which gives a really good foundation for our middle high school level program, which is Latin Alive. A little bit more rigorous, and so if you start with the lower school, you'll have that great foundation. But our Latin Alive program is also intended for people who've never had Latin, so we invite everybody there. And our program goes all the way from the foundations of Latin 1 through 3, and then we have intermediate Latin 4 and advanced Latin 5. So we've just got a nice big program, and we're building that program for other languages as well. So you can see some of our children's programs for the other languages as well as even in the high school. So check out all our languages. But more than that, having that steady progression and a gentle beginning is just thinking about what we think language means. And I'm going to do it from my perspective, but I feel that this is what we do as languages in general. So I hope that this can be a good representative of everybody. What is the purpose of language? And I always tell my students that all of our learning is learning to love God and love our neighbor. So how does that work with Latin, particularly when some people really see Latin as a dead language, right? So what's the point? I think, well, we could say we are going to love our neighbors who are Christians who came before us and read authors who wrote, Latin authors like St. Augustine as a good example, right? We learn about history, we learn about culture, we learn about the roots of the Western civilization. We make connections to the origins of United States history. We connect Cincinnatus with George Washington, for instance, like we were talking about today in one of my Latin classes. And so we have this way of integrating so many subjects, and I assume this is true about all the other subjects too, but in language, we don't just teach language. We're trying to help craft, as some of you have been talking about, craft souls that can think and connect across disciplines and connect to people who may be different than them. So I think our program emphasizes academic excellence, but is more than that. It's personal and it's rich and it's deep and connected. We've seen some other things that we've talked about as well. Communication with families and getting to know students and their parents, and I think that's all part of it as well. And as has been mentioned, tutoring opportunities as well. So we have all these different connections that we can make. But I hope that as you see what I mentioned about the integration of culture, history, Western roots, and sort of the language basis that helps you even think about your own language, your native language, English, for most of us, that you'll see that this is a worthwhile pursuit. And I just had really good news. I think it was today or yesterday, one of my former students emailed me and said that she just graduated from college and started being a Latin teacher at some classical Christian school. So, it also produces jobs. So, anyway, that's my plug for our language department.
That's so great, Eddie. Thank you. And yeah, jobs and people passing the Latin exams, in people passing AP exams of various sorts in various subjects. So I don't mean to be dismissive of that, but those concrete values do emerge as a byproduct of this rich soul-forming studies to love God and love others through them. I love that. Thank you, Eddie. Now we're handing it to Amy Morgan for writing and rhetoric and maybe a little well-ordered language thrown in.
Sure, I can touch on grammar. I'll touch on grammar and then I'll launch into the writing program more. So, well-ordered language is our grammar program, and it has 4 levels. It has 8 books, and you can take your child, or we can take your child through grammar from approximately grades 4 through 8. Something that is really playful and enjoyable about the grammar program that I've heard students and parents and teachers all enjoy is the musical component. Students are singing their grammar rules and definitions, and then they're playing games with their teachers and their classmates. And the well-ordered language program is contextualized in real language. So students are looking at poetry and stories and the way that language is used to build those beautiful pieces of art, and students are playing with and enjoying that together. And yes, there is diagramming, and yes, there is analyzing, and sometimes that's part of the game as well. In the Writing and Rhetoric program, it's a series built with 11 books. At this moment, it will be 12 books. So it takes about 6 years for your students to go through the Writing and Rhetoric program. But I like to think of it as from approximately from 4th grade to 9th or 10th grade, something like that. I like to think of the Writing and Rhetoric program like taking a field trip with friends into a beautiful garden because the Writing and Rhetoric series at Scholé Academy, it provides students with a unified path. But even though that path is unified through the stem of the textbooks, there it is full of a variety of experiences with language and ideas, and of course with the students' interactions with each other. The Writing and Rhetoric series gently leads students through the preliminary steps that lead them to be persuasive writers and thinkers. And each book contributes new knowledge while also circling back so that students can more deeply develop and use previously introduced skills. Along this unified and spiraling path, students interact with a variety of texts, stories, poems, quotations, speeches, but they're also, of course, interacting, as Amanda said, in this personal way with each other. They're reading together, retelling stories together, discussing, debating, journaling, reciting, dramatizing. They love the costumes and editing their work together. So with so much engagement with the text that they read to get ready to write and with each other's ideas, I don't hear students say that they're stuck with that dreaded feeling. I don't know what to write. It doesn't happen. It hasn't happened in the Writing and Rhetoric program. And also they playfully imitate the structures and styles of many other authors and orators through exercises and games and group work so that when they have these ideas to put down, they also are already confident, step by step, little by little, along the way, ready to put their ideas into words. So you might be familiar with this quote by Francis Bacon, where he says, reading makes a full person, conversation makes a ready person, and writing makes a precise one. Well, I've seen it. 7 years and hundreds of students later, I've seen that the Writing and Rhetoric program at Scholé Academy really does all three in the midst of the fun and encouragement of friendship together. So that's a little introduction of our department.
And your child, if they're the right grade level, can study Writing and Rhetoric with Amy Morgan herself, or with Ash White, or with a host of other remarkable instructors. Yeah, it's an amazing progression through, as you said so beautifully, Amy, skills that develop a very well-rounded student. So thank you so much. Now, following Amy, so we've heard about the languages program, the Writing and Rhetoric program, another very popular series of studies in classical circles is, of course, logic. So we're going to hand it to the one and only Ash White to tell us a little bit about our logic.
Good evening, everyone. I have my students consider G.K. Chesterton's quote at some point in the year. Without education, we are in a horrible and deadly danger of taking educated people seriously. And what better way to make sure that our students are not being hornswoggled by the authorities that be is a lovely foundational course in logic. We have 2 logic courses. They can study the informal fallacies with our Art of Argument course, and they can study more formal logic, categorical logic, syllogisms, square of opposition with our Discovery of Deduction class, which is the more formal logic. It's fun, it's engaging. We're analyzing movie clips. We're analyzing commercials. We are spotting bad arguments in the Super Bowl halftime show. We're doing all kinds of things to make sure that we're not being just taken in by any of the many messages that are bombarding you, me, our children every day. And we do it with a little bit of fun as well. So come and join us. Very great classes to supplement with what you're doing. They're really great courses to come alongside of maybe any debate work that you're doing, come alongside of potentially writing and rhetoric that you are doing, ways to bolster your arguments by also being able to unpack what not to do. What does it look like to be beautifully persuasive without being manipulative? That's what we're going for here. So check us out.
As you can see, it's not just our curricular lines that have a lot of personality and flair. You can study with the Ash White, and if you want to proceed on in that study, you can also study with Phaedra Shaltanis in the formal logic level, but it's not her turn yet, so wait for it, people. The next individual that we're going to hear from is going to speak about our science lines, and a celebrity in and of himself, an author, an educator, somebody who you need to check out the Common Arts book if you have not, also a new natural philosophy and other books that Classical Academic Press publishes. But the one and only Chris Hall teaches classes that your students can take, and he's going to speak a little bit about the science progression and the science studies at Scholé Academy. So Chris, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Blake. It's a pleasure. Hey, I noticed, and I'm going to speak into this just for a minute. I noticed that earlier tonight it was all about the moms. We had the moms talking into the homeschool thing here, but I'm going to tell you, I've been a homeschool dad for 7 years, and Scholé Academy has given my 3 sons about the best possible complementary education that I could ask for. And ladies, I'm going to hand that one over to you, moms who are listening to this, but also dads. My 3 sons are now at UVA studying philosophy, 3rd year at UVA. My middle son is now a practicing physical therapist. He's earning his certifications and others. And my 3rd son is about to graduate. He's a senior next year doing dual enrollment, pursuing things like counseling and art. And I cannot tell you how much Scholé Academy has added to our family's education. So you can introduce me as an author of many books and other things, but I look around this call and I see the faces of the people who made the difference in my home. Thank you. And now I'll talk about science because I have to lead with that. And ultimately it comes down to this. If we talk about science, and this is the one thing I think a lot of homeschool families have a hard time with, it's science and math, isn't it? Right? I can teach literature, I can teach philosophy, I can teach all these wonderful things, but science and math. I never really specialized in that myself, right? I don't know how to do it. I'm not confident. This is my 5th year with Scholé Academy. It's my 31st year in a classroom, and I have to tell you that a number of people have approached me across those 3 decades with that same set of questions. Brick and mortar elementary and middle school teachers, families that are in it. And I've got to tell you that what you're working with here at Scholé Academy is a very fine group of science teachers. I get to be one of a team that is doing this. And we're using the Novari Science course as a background. And ultimately, what science is all about is about experiencing order and creation. If we were to put something that is science, it would be that. It's all about looking for those orders in the physical world, the chemical world, the biological world, the environmental world, the geological, the astronomical worlds. But there's more to it. If you stop at the facts, you miss the whole other side, which is also the wonder and the awe at the very orderer of the orders you're looking into. And that is the beauty of teaching things through Novari, through digging with science with a theistic perspective. We can do all the things that our friends who are in the IB programs, the AP programs, going to the colleges can do, but we're doing it in such a way that we never lose sight of the one that orders the whole thing. And that is the beauty of it. If we want to define science, science is about understanding the universe through the physical universe only, through observation, experiment, and reason. And that is what our science classes are doing. We're looking into the physical, measurable, empirical things that we can observe, tinker with through experimentation, tweaking variables to see what comes out the other end. What are the families of facts we've learned through now hundreds of years of methodological pursuit? But in the process of that, we never lose sight of the big goal, which is to understand the mind and to wonder and awe at that of the creator. So think of our science program as really a set of tools. We're handing over to your children the hammers, the screwdrivers, the tools with which to explore. All the hands-on, all the labs, all that understanding. But we're never losing sight of the wonder and the awe. Really, if you're going to hand a kid a tool for science, make it a lever. Make it a lever to wonder and awe, not just to a greater degree or to a career. Those things will come. But how many of the best scientists in the world will also talk about these things? It's a grander picture, and one that we would want your kids to experience, to see when they're 10, when they're 11, when they're 6, and when they're 16. And those are the things that really we should be putting into. To understand the kind of the scope and sequence of this, there is science for the younger ages. Science for beginners and nature study is where Scholé starts off. All these younger kids can come in there, the kindergarten, first grade, second grade level. They can begin to get their hands around it, make out good observations. Then there's life and physical science and earth science, where we're beginning to introduce to them things about biology, things about the physical world. How does the physical world work? Forces and motion, heat, and other things, sources of energy, and even the very earth under our feet. Finally, we get to a more formal progression, an introduction to physics, an introduction to chemistry, an introduction to biology, and we can crown it off in the 12th grade year or 11th and 12th grade year with honors physics, a calculus-based program, or even environmental science, which we're working towards right here. More advanced studies that just continue that spiral of revealing. Take the facts, but use them as a lever for awe and wonder. And that's where you're going to get with Scholé Science.
Come on and preach, Chris Hall. Did anybody feel like they need to get their amen on? Thank you so much for sharing that. And listen, the dad part was unscripted, y'all. Thank you so much, Chris, for all of those insights, and for each one of you as our leaders of the departments and as really those who are able to speak from some longevity. This is not just folks that have just picked this up, but as a newbie. So next, what I want us to move toward is, now that you have seen what it's like to have some real substantial progression in these courses, you're probably asking, as Chris already indicated, yeah, but what about these others that I also know, not just science, but there's some humanities and math. We haven't even spoken about history and literature, nor have we spoken about math. So in just a minute, I'm going to introduce a couple of lovely ladies who are going to speak on that point. But I wanted to let us have a little commercial break, shall we?
Humanitas is a primary text-based approach to history, which makes it different from every other history textbook that you'll encounter. Instead of reading a 21st century historian writing about history, you're actually reading documents from history. The goal isn't necessarily to come to understand everything. The goal is to have a first encounter with. This is one of the things that requires you to change your mindset about how you approach the study of history. If the student wants to go back and say, you know, that was interesting, that was difficult, there's things that I want to better understand. Now you've got the student hooked, because they are sitting at the feet of the masters of the humane tradition, and they're being taught by them.
So the folks you were just looking at were the editors of the Humanitas series, and the lovely folks you're looking at here are our chairs of our humanities department and our math department, Phaedra Shaltanis and Francel Riley. And I had the wonderful opportunity to meet up in person with these lovely ladies, snap this very photo. And I just thought it was so precious to think, you know, getting together and seeing us in person is like a beautiful bundle, but we also offer real bundles of courses at Scholé Academy, and that is in our history and literature. You can take these together for a little discount, and it enriches the study together. So Phaedra is going to speak to that. Then we're going to hand it off to Dr. Riley, Francel Riley, who'll speak to, but we do not recommend that we pack everything together. And one of the things that we say to families is, those of you who think, hey, just take pre-algebra in one year and clip on to the next, we have a slow, systematic progression in math because it's mastery based. So I'm going to now invite these fine ladies to speak to you all next. First, Phaedra, and then to Francel Riley. Go ahead, Phaedra.
Thank you, Dr. Blake, and good evening, everyone. History and literature are just the most wonderful things to teach. All the classes at Scholé are fabulous, but history and literature combine science, math, music, art, rhetoric, all of it. And taking the two together, but the two together make a beautiful partnership. They're both about stories and people. So I really don't feel I can add too much to what the Humanitas kind of infomercial provided, but I will say that from observing the immersion of studying literature that was written in the same time period of the historical study makes all the difference. To read a book that's written in modern day about 1500s is going to be radically different. There's just no way we can get a glimpse in the same way the people who lived that time period. So we were able to get a broad but far-reaching view of the culture, all the philosophies, ideas that shaped society as people were living that society. And if you think about it, all history is stories. So why not just delve into the people who were writing from the overflow of their own lives? For example, right now in our classes, we're reading A Tale of Two Cities by Dickens and alongside studying the French Revolution. And the two together can be a lot. But I think it's more if you take one because the two together enhance and complement each other in such lovely ways. Very often, students will say, well, remember in history we learned that, or I wonder if Dickens put this in his book. So it's just tremendous. And being able to have multiple layers of exploration and delight. And I must say too, it's restful because it doesn't feel rushed. We're immersed in not quite 3 hours during the 2 days a week. And I can't encourage enough. I think it makes a very big difference in terms of understanding the time period and also the authors who have gone on to express their understanding of the time period in fiction largely. Also, we have bundles of all of the main time periods: ancient, medieval, classical, modern. And we have companion courses of literature if you want a little extra. So Gothic literature or some fantasy literature. And it's just a delightful, delightful catalog of offerings. I do hope you consider pairing history and literature together if it works for you. I think that it will be a very rich experience.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle Tannis. And that happens in middle school and high school or upper school. So you can get those bundles at both of those levels. No, it doesn't happen at lower school. But Presbytera would say I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our liberal arts program in St. Raphael School where you can get a whole bundle of things for youngsters. How's that, Presbytera? Uh, Now I'm going to hand it to Dr. Francel Riley, who will tell you what you have been longing to hear about math, and that is, can my child succeed? All right, Dr. Riley, take it away.
All right, so you all just heard about the beauty of joining two courses together, but I want to speak specifically about mathematics. It's no surprise, learning mathematics is challenging, and it's challenging for most students. But at Scholé, we don't shy away from that challenge. We embrace it. We teach the students to embrace it. We teach the students to face it head on in a manner that's encouraging, enlightening, uplifting, and motivating. But most importantly, we want to ensure a mastery of mathematics that is not superficial. We want them to have a deep understanding of the concepts that they are learning. And when I say superficial, I'm meaning algorithmic, where they just learn to follow the steps and follow the same steps over and over. But instead, we want to explore why. Why do these steps work? How can we break problems apart, look at them in their pieces, and then put them back together? How can we learn through discovery and wonder and problem solving, critical thinking tasks? We talk about the history of mathematics, the great thinkers. We like to give context to the quote by Galileo. All of our classes talk about this quote, that mathematics is the language by which God has written the universe. Mathematics, we can show them that, and that through studying mathematics, you're studying God's creation. And we do this from fourth grade all the way to calculus. For the vast majority of students, this is best accomplished by moving through math on pace rather than at an accelerated pace. What this means is taking Algebra 1 in ninth grade. That removes the need to try to cram 2 years of mathematics that we call pre-algebra into 1 year. That allows them to take those 2 years in seventh and eighth grade and then move into Algebra 1 in ninth grade. And I think I love to use analogies. My students will tell you this. I do it all the time. So I have an analogy for you. Imagine you're learning to roller skate. For the first time ever, you put on a pair of roller skates. And you're wobbly. Maybe somebody's next to you holding you up, and you're learning how to move your legs so that you can push yourself along. And you speed up a little bit, but not until you learn how to stop, right? You want to learn how to stop. You learn how to maneuver yourself around obstacles, okay? And you go through that step by step. It's a step-by-step process. And you gain confidence as you go. And you start to speed up, and you gain more confidence. And you speed up, and you just do all the steps over and over, gaining confidence. Now, imagine it a different way. You put on your skates for the first time, and your little brother or sister comes behind you and gives you a real good push. Now you're just off to the races. You're rolling, and maybe for a moment it's fun, and you're like, I'm skating, but you're not. You're just rolling. And then you see that obstacle in front of you, and you're like, wait, how do I stop? How do I get around this? Help! You're in trouble now. And there's only two ways out of this. Either somebody's going to come alongside you and prop you up, or you're going to crash. And in mathematics, the same thing happens. If you're moving along too quickly, somebody's going to have to come alongside you and prop you up. Maybe that's by trying to find easier courses where everybody is kind of guaranteed an A. Or maybe that is through extensive tutoring or studying for hours on end to try to catch up. Or you crash, and that may look like failing or giving up or just losing confidence, thinking I must not be good at math. Think about when a foundation of a house is weak. Brand new house, it has a weak foundation. You don't know that for years. The same thing happens in mathematics. Weaknesses in algebra sometimes don't show up until calculus. So we aim to provide our students with that first experience where they can get that strong foundation that won't falter over time.
Listen, this is just a whole amen section. And that analogy, I feel like I've never heard that from Dr. Riley before, but that is genius, and that's exactly right. And I will add to this, this is to layer the understanding here. As Presbytera mentioned early on in our tutoring center, we have a host of different services, including a Center for Students with Learning Differences. And that doesn't just mean learning deficits. We serve exceptional students. We serve a variety of different needs, aptitudes, and interests. And we recognize that that's exactly what every student uniquely created in the image of God. And so it's not to say that we don't have a pre-algebra course that you can take in a single year. We do. Accelerated pre-algebra, but it is for a good reason that it is screened for proper placement and just not automatically get admitted. Now that leads us to then parents, well, how do I get in and how do I know if my child, which one should they take? As Dr. Riley said, if you don't know, pick the normal route. Don't pick the accelerated route. Now, having said that, though, I want to tell you a little bit more about our enrollment process. Before, I promise you, we are moving to Q&A. But here I'm going to tell you, first of all, you can have some very handy helps if you haven't discovered them yet. On the website, on our All Courses page, there are documents posted there that will give you recommendations according to grade levels, both for lower school, middle school, and upper school. Like, what should my child take? Ta-da! Here's a whole host of options. We're not saying take them all. We're saying these are all available to you to check. Then as Miss Shaltanis mentioned the bundles. There's a document there that shows everything that you can take in bundles. And there is a scheduler so that you can write out, hey, I think in the days and times, this is how we want to fill that in. All this is available to you on the website. So the question is, if you're ready to enroll, enrollment opens to returning families this Thursday. If you are a brand new family, you can enroll on Monday. So we have the first 4 days reserved for returning families. Everyone who's going to enroll has to log in. If you don't log in, it's not going to let you move on to the checkout process. And for you returning families, you definitely need to log in because then the enrollment button won't appear for you. You have to be recognized by the system. But good news, everybody, you can take step 1 tonight. You can go ahead and get your login and all your student info ready. So if you go onto the website, the Scholé Academy website, you can hover in the upper right-hand corner and you'll see a little silhouette, and you follow that process. Manage your family's profile in the upper right corner. You need to add any students that aren't currently there, and what it will require is the student's birth date and their unique email address. Now, for you as a parent, you have to log in with what's a real email. Don't give us a spam one because actually it won't work out for you. So you have to use a real email, but then to give your student info, they each have to have a unique student email. Even my 3rd grade baby? Yes, and it's not because we're expecting that 3rd grade baby to use an email. Just it's our connection point to get them into Canvas later in the year. Okay, so that's a step you can take right now. And then, as I said, on Thursday for returning families, Monday for new families, you can get your carts loaded up, select the courses you want, add them to the cart, and the add to the cart button is an enroll button. And then at checkout, you can pay for them in full, or you can choose a payment plan. So just to be clear, this is what it will look like. Right now, it doesn't look like this on the courses because the enroll button doesn't appear, but when you are able to enroll, that's what will appear, is that little enroll button. And yeah, that's my little blurb for a new course this year, Adulting 101. That's for senior level folks. So, friends, again, the last piece, going back to that placement evaluation, you're going to get an email receipt of all the courses that you enrolled in. Save that. Save those. It's kind of an indication. Also, when you go up to the upper right-hand corner at the login, later when you're logged in on the website, it'll give you your list of what your students are enrolled in too. But the placement confirmation about those enrollments doesn't come until the summertime, like mid-May and toward the summer. For one reason, practically speaking, all our teachers are already teaching in a live and active school year. Come around summertime, they get the focused look at what students are enrolled in the class and is it the proper enrollment. We trust very often it is. You as a parent can assess, where does my student belong, and you are making those choices as the most informed and administrator of your own homeschool. But if there is a need for an evaluation, the instructor will reach out to you, and there's a variety. You can read all about our evaluation process on our website and in our student handbook. But they will reach out to you to evaluate. This is, in fact, the proper placement for them. They're ready for this course. If for whatever reason they need to be at a higher level or a lower level, we transfer them for free. So this is not a risky situation, but it is a way of verifying for you, like, yes, I've made the right selection. We do have other resources as well, most of the time, even on those actual course pages. So like for writing and rhetoric, you can check, there's a document there. Where should I place my child in the writing and rhetoric sequence? Well, check out that document that's there as a way to guide you in your wise decision making as a parent. We too are happy to partner with you. My friends, you can reach us at support@scholeacademy.com, and there's our phone number right there. Likely you'll get Nancy on the line, or you'll get the voicemail. We do ask for your patience during this busy season. We're a small but mighty team, and we will try to get to all of your questions as quickly as we can. If you are new to us, we want to welcome you, and we want to provide you a free gift to get to know us better. I didn't mean to make the gift a mystery. For whatever reason, the picture didn't load, but in the chat, you get to claim this free gift. We are giving you the audio book of The Scholé Way. Scholé Way was written by Dr. Christopher Perrin, and it's read in audio by the president of Classical Academic Press, Joelle Hodge, and we just want to get to know you better. So, if you find in the chat, there'll be a little form and you can enter to get that free gift from us by giving us your email address. So if you've never been a Scholé Academy family before, this is our free gift to you. Now, you returning families, where's my free gift? Your free gift is you get to enroll before everybody else. And here's your backstage pass. As I mentioned, Joelle Hodge, or Jolie Hodge, as she's known, she's the president of Classical Academic Press. And she also was one of the founding teachers of Scholé Academy. And back when it was just, a handful of students teaching Latin and logic. So Jolie and I sat down and visited together, and we recorded our conversation. And we want you, all of you families, from long time ago or brand new to us, just to get to know a little bit about where it began, how it's grown, and where it's headed. So you can find that on YouTube. And finally, now we want to take your questions and answer them live. So our whole team is here and we're getting our fingers live in the chat, and we will also try to answer them live here to you. Whatever you may have, we are ready to go. All right, I'm seeing some that have come in the chat already and into the Q&A box. So one of the questions is maybe going to go for Dr. Riley, Mr. Hall, or Miss Bartko. I'm fairly certain I want to put my son in the advanced track for high school math or science, but who would I talk to make sure that's the best choice? Do you want to speak to that at all?
I think from math at least, it's a matter of we have a placement exam process that we start at the end of the year, at the end of the school year in May and June. And it will be a matter of starting with that placement exam and seeing how the results of the placement exam turns out. So you would enroll him in the course that you believe is the most suitable. And on each of the math course pages, there's a tab that has a list of prerequisite skills that students should have mastered before enrolling in their course. So you could use that as your guide to see, have they mastered all of these prerequisite skills? And if so, then that's probably the right fit for you. And then we'll do the placement exam process to confirm.
And I would tack on to that for the science department. If your child is progressing along with these math courses, we do have an advanced track for the science courses. Oh goodness, we have like an advanced chemistry and physics course that we offer to, say, like high school freshmen, an advanced biology course, an advanced chemistry course, and so on and so forth. They do have certain math skills that are required. So if your student is accomplishing those math skills at the appropriate time, that would be a fantastic track for them. And I would say too, like, take a look at the teachers that are listed on those particular courses you're looking at. You could send direct emails to those teachers too to get more specific questions answered.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We got a couple of questions that One is a question about auditing. We do take auditors. You can audit the course, which means you don't submit assignments, nor do you get the instructors grading them. There's other details about auditing, and there's a whole section in the student parent handbook that you can read about that. We do take full enrollees first. So if a course is going to fill up, full enrollees would get preference to that. But if there is space and seats available, we do accept auditors. Our classes are capped at 15 students, so that's another thing to keep in mind. Another question that came in was related. Oh, maybe that one lost. Okay. Next, this one may be for Miss Allison, perhaps. Checking the profiles and logging in and using the son's email, but it doesn't seem they're having problems with logging in. Will that be a problem on the enrollment day? That's the question.
Sure. So I think this particular question is just a profile update, but we've had lots of email questions. So maybe just we'll clarify in general about emails. So for current families, the step is definitely as soon as possible before enrollment opens, go and update your profile. We want the email address for your student that they currently use for Canvas. If that's your email, that's fine. It's not ideal. We can deal with that later. It's okay. But we really just want to know your Canvas email address that you're currently using with us. For new families, it's a little bit different that we would want each student in the house, if there are multiple children enrolling with us, to each use their own email address and to save your parent email so that we can use that for a parent account. As a parent with 4 children who have taken classes here all at the same time, I can tell you that the parent account is amazing because you can toggle between all of your children. What you just log in with your parent account and you can go look at each of your children. You can check in on how their grades are doing. Are their submissions on time? Are there any announcements from their instructor? And you can also set notifications so that they're going to come directly to your inbox. So when you're providing an email to us, whether in your profile or in any other signups, please use your primary email address as a parent. We're not going to spam you with a lot of extra stuff, but you definitely want to stay connected, and your email is the way we do that. We send out an email every Monday, for example, to our email list, and that has news for the school that you'll want to make sure you know about. So in Canvas, use your parent email for your parent account. Have each child in your household that you're going to be enrolling have a separate email, and you can take time now to set those up. And then we will go set up their Canvas accounts later in the summer, and we'll walk you through that process when the time comes. But just going ahead and setting that up and providing that to us during enrollment is going to be the next right step for now. Okay, so email addresses are really important.
Critical intel. And thank you so much. I see that our great team is already answering some in the Q&A. And team, this is what I'd like to ask from you. If you see some things bubbling to the surface that you think, oh, this might be valuable for people to know in general, or something that came to your mind in the course of the evening, I do invite you now to just chime in and share anything that you think might be helpful for the whole.
We did receive a question about someone's child not got a non-official diagnosis of dyscalculia. Would I need to get an official diagnosis of my child to get extra help that she needs? The answer is no. So we do not need an official diagnosis. We have special needs instructors who do serve students with dyscalculia, and you would just fill out an intake form on our Center for Students with Learning Differences. We will match you up with a special needs instructor. They will do a screening process, talk it over with you, and then we will go from there. And each individual case is treated as such and differentiated based upon the needs of the family and the student.
Perfect. I also saw some people wanting to know about course samples and then things like that. So I'm going to take a minute and point out a little something that you guys might be interested in. Scholé Academy, it's not the most refined channel you will ever visit, but we do indeed have a YouTube channel where we have, as you'll see, this conversation. We visited with author and homeschooling mom Tish Oxenrider and beloved Scholé mom, all kinds of things. And you can also move so that you can, go to our home and they're kind of categorized. And we have a category called Experience Our Classrooms. And there's not a ton there, but there is things that you can look at to get the feel for what our classrooms are like, which should be helpful to you as you consider, is this going to be the right fit? While I'm here, I'll go ahead and toggle to a couple of other things. The Classical Academic Press site also has great curriculum content, and so you can go to the products page and snoop further on anything you may want to know about the well-ordered language, writing, rhetoric, humanitas, etc. And related to those questions of, general track or advanced track, you can take, be on the lookout. I'm going to send an email tomorrow about science and so forth. But there's a lot of great video content describing science, and here shows this pathway where the grade level, as Chris Hall mentioned, and Danielle Bartko as well, through the middle school, but then at the upper school, you can choose the general pathway or you can choose the advanced pathway. And we offer courses in all of these. The only one that is still outstanding a little bit is for our environmental science, because we want to get just the right teacher for that. But otherwise, every single one of these is offered at Scholé Academy. And last but not least, the Scholé Academy website itself. If there are questions that we don't answer for you this evening, I just want to point out that under our resources, you can go to our student parent handbook and you can read in greater detail about what policies that we may not have had time to cover this evening. You can also go to About Us and toggle to all of our instructors. And then there on that page, the instructors page, you also see the courses they actually teach and so forth. And then, of course, back to our all courses or by our house pages, by our individual house pages. All of that should be super helpful along the journey.
I want to add real quick too for samples. You can always email instructors to ask for maybe not necessarily sample videos, but sample coursework or student submissions, that kind of thing. Also, a little plug, I do have a workshop coming up that starts in a couple weeks. So if you want to sample a class, that's kind of a last course offering that we have for the spring. And then summer classes too. I mentioned that we started Scholé Academy with summer classes. And so if you're still debating and not quite sure what to sign up for, you could sample other classes with summer classes, which those aren't out yet, but they will be in a couple months, and they're really a lot of fun.
No homework in summer classes.
You wouldn't get a taste of homework, but
no
yeah.
homework, no homework. For our registrar, illustrious registrar, Nancy, question came in and it was answered, but I think it's good to answer it live as well. Since we're new, we'll be enrolling at a later date. If we need to go on a wait list, is it best to enroll in another section and then wait to see if there's a place open in the other and get transferred, or just sign up for the wait list?
I would definitely choose another section that you are able to do in case you can't get on this waitlisted spot. But if you definitely want that class, I would join, I would join the wait list for that section, and then I would most definitely enroll in another section that you can do just in case.
Yeah, I'd layer in just class size in general. I don't know that we've mentioned that this evening, but our class sizes are capped at 15 students or less. And we've heard a lot this evening about the relational benefits of the way we do online learning that is very different from a lot of our other friends in the classical world, or even other types of online learning. So the way that happens is a lot like you're seeing the webinar this evening with faces on screen. And so we do limit the class sizes, which is 15 students or less in each section. And that's why the waitlist button is going to pop up on the website. But as they said, go ahead and sign up for what you can, and then we'll move you around as we're able to when things open up. There is a lot of shifting that happens. So be encouraged in that, but go ahead and save your seat so that you have a spot that will work in case the shifting isn't possible. But I wanted to connect the class size and the relational learning because that's part of the good stuff, right? That's the beauty of what we offer.
And I just wanted to add that the wait list is worked thoroughly throughout the summer, really until the second week of September after classes have started. So, put yourselves on that wait list because I do work it all the way through the second week of September.
Any other questions or comments that anyone wants to add? Well, I will say again that our handbook covers a host of policies, our enrollment, auditing, withdrawing, transferring, getting additional services, all kinds of things. And even what the rhythms of our class. We follow a liturgical learning pattern that really is a beautiful feature of our classrooms. And oftentimes, as we develop personal relationships, there are exceptions made on a case-by-case basis to these policies. So we just encourage you to keep the lines of communication really open. We do our best to really serve each family personally, even though there are well over 2,000 of y'all. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. I want to thank our team in particular because you all are just such lovely testaments to the richness and the beauty that is to be found at Scholé Academy. I'm so honored to work alongside you. It's a great joy and privilege. And thank you so much, families, for considering us as a partner with you in this homeschooling journey. We really do admire what it is you are working toward. Our hearts are with you in the efforts you are putting forward to raise your children, to love God and love others, to relish the true, good, and beautiful, and to be his ambassadors in the earth. So thank you so much for being with us this evening. It was a delight to share the time with you, and we look forward to seeing your name in the enrollment come Thursday or Monday. So reach out if we can help you in any way. Support at scholeacademy.com. Have a great evening, everyone. Good night.